The Accidental Wizard, Part 2, 13th of September. I'm about to tell you the moment when my spiritual quest starts, spurred by my mum dying. The actual, definable second. Unfortunately, it's going to lead to a series of mini crucifixions for me, which will not be very nice. But before I do, I want to talk about time. We think in terms of everything being in a line. We're born, we live, we get kicked around a bit, we get old, we get kicked around a lot more, we die, we become ash or turnips. The solar system rotates on its interlocuting axis as it moves through space. Time ticks away, never to be retrieved. But what do you make of the fact that light, that most familiar entity, exists as both a wave and a particle at the same time? Yeah, that's right. It exists on two planes. And that can be demonstrated in a simple scientific experiment, which I've just done for a program on quantum physics. Yes, while light is washing ashore in a gently lapping wave at 186,000 miles per hour, okay, so not so gentle then, it's bouncing around as photons, which are like very, very tiny beads. What's this got to do with the price of fish? Everything. Scientists will tell you that one astounding fact makes existence of multi-dimensions possible. It suggests time could travel backwards or stop, or that whole levels of existence could be hidden in different dimensions, accessible through wormholes, or in other words, tears between different times. I'm absorbing this myself after filming the experiment and meeting Uri Geller to interview him for my program on the Bermuda Triangle. He seems to know this and already understands and applies it. I ask him on the phone why I think of herds of black and white cows as we're driving to his mansion in Buckinghamshire. It turns out that the lawn is decorated with concrete black and white cows when we get there. Well, that would be why then. He has a very, very powerful psychic electromagnetic aura. This man is not from planet Earth. He really can bend metal. I see him do it with my own eyes from 3 inches away, and there are no tricks. He holds me in a psychic arm lock for weeks after we meet. I can see him watching me. Oh, I forgot to mention that. I can see places where I'm not too. Sort of like being in two places at once. Like light itself, of course. We must be our own particle wave accelerators. I confess I'm having fun writing this freely from my subconscious, guided by the angels, where anything and everything is going to surface. Can you allow yourself to let that go too and see what happens? Anyway, this is proving to be a very cathartic experience for me. Never mind you, right? As when I write a voiceover script for a TV program, every tiny detail must be explained and substantiated. Here, I'm going to say exactly what I like, but I have lots of photos to illustrate and maybe substantiate what, it's not easy to say that word, substantiate what I say, think, and believe. It once got so crazy, substantiating, hey, got it, or annotating our script for a TV science show, the network asked us to prove humans were actually bipeds. Yep. So we sent them a picture of my producer's husband, whose name shall remain nameless. We sent them a picture of her husband naked. And while you're just dealing with that image, I'll move on. What's amazing will be that you'll get it because you're human. And if you allow yourself to let science and spirituality coalesce and become one, like the 7 rays of the spectrum become one white light when they mix, you'll get it. And there'll be pictures of things which make no sense but will stir memories in you about your deeply buried self. A self, an I am, a monad, which is a light being capable of time travel, travel on the astral plane, seeing remotely, hearing, feeling and sensing things which have always been there, but you've forgotten how to sense. And we are 100% not alone. We're being watched. guided, loved, and influenced by forces outside what we think we know. Has that got your attention? Good. Well, here's what happened to me then. If you had bought this book originally before I decided to read it to you, and you got to this bit, you'll want to know more, right? You'll want to know more by listening to the book. Maybe you're looking forward to picking off what I say, like someone does with clay pigeons, which you can shoot down with a satisfying puff of clay dust. Or maybe you're ready for some information you weren't expecting, new might be there, or actively needing to have it explained. Something is changing. The world is changing. The world is in trouble. The food and the water are going to run out. Scientists are predicting we'll need 2 planets worth of food production by 2050 to feed the world's population. And if we don't get a grip on contraception and give the world a rest from us, we won't survive. It's just not feasible. But if we empower and educate women about contraception, it could work. If we leave it to men, like they are at the moment, it won't. When I was born in 1957, a very, very long time ago, the world's population was a little over 1.5 billion. There are that many people in China alone now, and the total global population is over 7 billion. The Himalayan glaciers are melting so fast they could disappear within 20 years from now. And recently, the UN and the International Panel on Climate Change have revised their prediction to be less draconian. But the point remains the same. Water will become the subject of crisis and cause wars in the future. The Himalayas provide 20% of the world's total fresh water. The Ganges in India, the Yellow River, and the Yangtze River in China, and the Mekong Delta in Vietnam flood during the summer due to meltwater from glaciers. The human race is driving climate change and warming. North America, India, Europe and China now produce 26 gigatons of CO2 a year. That is too much. End of. Never mind what the oil industry and governments pay skeptics to say. It's too much and the Earth can't absorb it. Sure, it's only 3% of the total CO2 produced on the Earth, but it's a deal breaker. Nature deals in small percentiles. Parts per million of CO2 have increased from 185 to over 400 since the start of the Industrial Revolution. That sort of increased amount. Sorry about that, the dog was barking. That sort of increase left to nature has taken 50 million years before, not 200 years. 50 million years to do what we've done in just 200 years. Scientists will tell you about ice core samples from the Arctic from thousands of years ago, where similar levels of CO2 have been found. CO2 unbalances the climate and causes ice ages, or confusingly, catastrophic warming, as with the Pleistocene Ice Age 11,000 years ago, or the Cretaceous era 50 million years ago. No ice in the latter, obviously, but they use rock and sediments to tell the story. The Colorado River in the US, which used to flow to the Pacific on the west coast, doesn't make it anymore. Cities like Las Vegas suck the water out of the river until it dries up into a puddle. What has any of this got to do with my spiritual journey or what sparked that moment in me? Everything. I've been to glaciers in Alaska, Chile, and the Arctic, and they are shrinking or unwinding into the sea like a melting ice cream. I started taking these trips in association with my work long before I had a moment of awakening, and it worries me deeply. I feel as if we're sleepwalking into really bad trouble without being conscious. I want to know what I can do about it. what I can do to change our thinking. I want to know if there's anything out there apart from us who is involved, who can guide us, if there's a higher intelligence which might be able to change our collective consciousness for the better. Or are we doomed to spin through space until we starve or choke unguided and unaided? For me, the spiritual change personally begins with an innocent-looking photo of my best friend Mark mucking around with his daughter in their back garden. And change is what is needed. Everything's about to change. Have you noticed? You can't not. 15th of February. I am sitting looking at my photos on my computer. For some reason, I've been thinking about angels again. I went out with my very luminous friend Liz Bonin last night, who's a TV presenter. She and I had one of those most fun experiences of my life making a series called Gadgets and Stuff, where Stuff magazine fed us cool gadgets to feature, and I could pick anything I fancied from the gadgets trolley. Every boy's dream, right? Liz is a brilliant scientist and presenter, and I'm secretly in love with her in a harmless adolescent way like every single one of her other male friends. And we have a conversation about angels over dinner at Roco, my favourite restaurant. I tell her I think I'm an angel. She takes it quite well, but I can feel she thinks I may be a little mad. But I do, I really do. It may be a strong sense of spirit or God or something in me, but it is profound. Back to the photo of my friend, Mark. For some reason, I suddenly noticed the little girl Robin has a sort of bubble right on her forehead. I look closer. I increase the magnification of the picture. And this is the moment. The defining moment. In a picture I've browsed through a dozen times, there's something there I've never noticed before. I run through every scenario I can based on working with pictures and film for 20 years. Lens flare? No light source apart from the flash as we're in a pitch black garden. Condensation? Possibly. Dust? Possibly. It goes on. But there is a knowing in my consciousness, in my heart, my chakras, that it's none of these. The bubble has beautiful veins and patterns like nothing I've ever seen before, and I can't believe I've never noticed it before. 30th of April. I ask a friend what the bubble might be. She says it's an orb. That is a word I've never heard used in that way before. I Google it and hundreds of references come up, including YouTube videos and books on the subject. Some very nice looking ones written by someone called Diana Cooper. I order a few of her books on Amazon. A piece in the puzzle has suddenly fallen into place. Before starting to look and research, something I love to do, I already know what the bubble is. It's intelligent. It's what we've referred to for millennia as an angel. It's saying hello to me as it's time I woke up and stopped messing around. This thought pops into my head like a letter landing on the mat through the letterbox. Plop. Not there one moment, there the next. Like it's always nestled comfortably in that spot. Strangely, I have no recollection of who the friend is who tells me what they are. That happens a lot too. I'm always meeting kind people who help me out of a jam or just tell me something I need to know at the time. Then I can't quite remember what they looked like later, or even if they were male or female. I come to recognise them as angels. But don't think they're the only physical manifestation of what we're surrounded by. Other, less positive forces are incarnated or can manifest from time to time. Once I learn to recognise them, I sometimes approach them, and the evil in them comes off in waves. And they hate to be spotted. I walked right up to one of these characters and asked him where he was from. He looked startled and he replied, Persia, not Iran, please note, but the old country before the Imams made it Iran and started flogging women on the bare soles of their feet till they bled just for being women, or so it seems. 6th of June. I'm searching through my pictures to check for any more of these orbs to see if this was a singularity or if there are others. There are more. My heart starts to thump. Another sign I come to recognize as being the presence of angels as I look at a picture I took on a research trip to Yosemite, California. There are what look like two massive transparent pancakes floating in the air, and I instinctively know they are angels of protection. Protecting what? I asked no one in particular. My ear is ringing. Spirits of North American Indians protecting the ancient burial ground at the base of the towering mountain, comes the reply. I just know that's the answer. Sorry, Richard Dawkins, but I do. Richard Dawkins is sort of my scientific conscience, evidence, proof, empirical observation. The doubts and mockery spin around in my head. I know it sounds daft and implausible, but it's my truth. He'd probably say double light refraction, decomposition in the salts in the CC device in the camera which mimics the chemical reaction of traditional chemical film. Sweat? Dust? This is going to happen a lot, and there's nothing I can do about it until something unequivocal comes along. But why isn't the same imperfection there in my photos in the same setting? Why isn't it there on the shot before or after? When the lens cracks, or the O-ring seals pop and let moisture in, the lens develops a permanent line or bloom on the bowl of one of the glasses. I know, as I've had it happen when we flew from one location to another in Alaska in an unpressurized aircraft at almost 10,000 feet, which then landed at 500 feet above sea level. The drop in pressure was enough to pop the seals, and we had a halo in the center of a $10,000 lens. This is not that. I find a stupid picture of me dressed as Fred Flintstone from June 2004. There is a beautiful little blue orb by my hand. I already know it's Archangel Michael. My mum always used to talk about Michael's blue protective cloak of light and his sword. I have no idea how she knew this, and I never thought to ask. Bit late now. How can a whole angel be present as a possible trick of the light next to my hand without me even knowing? But I've always felt I was an angel myself, and I was surrounded by others. So this is a revelation. I'm scared and excited at the same time. Is this why I saw them as a baby? Why I dream about them? Why they seem to be in my pictures now? I feel like that kid in Close Encounters when E.T. lights up his finger. And I can tell you, Mr. Steven Spielberg was way ahead of me, as was Stanley Kubrick. Both of these amazing directors have already reached out and put their hand through the thin membrane which guides the dimensions, and they've seen what lies behind. I'm so blown away, I can hardly breathe or sleep. What to do? My wife takes the news like I've only just heard JFK was assassinated in Dallas. How can she be so calm? For the first time ever, I start to see her as the angelic guide she is. How can I have not noticed before? How could I not have noticed? I love her so much. I look for other evidence, and there it is. A beautiful picture of my younger daughter Betty and one of our pups, Luca. A white orb floats in the foreground. And then there's the diving shot of little orbs everywhere. Yes, jellyfish, I know. Of course they are. Believe what you like. Whatever's your reality, man. 3 Indonesian gentlemen who helped me out of a tight spot when we were filming after the Indonesian tsunami and who loaned us $5,000 have a double orb on the pocket of the trousers with the money in. That's what I call an angel of protection. Or maybe it should be an angel of Brinks, Matt. An orb of protection on my friend Andrea's pregnant belly. It's looking after an unborn child. And then there is the Pakistan earthquake. Faint orbs in the rubble. I told you I'd do disaster. How could I have missed them? Well, we do. It's called paradigm blindness. I'm feeling expansive after a glass or two of wine, so I'll help you out here. When Captain Cook landed in what became the Cook Islands, the locals couldn't recognise his ship, as they'd never seen one, and their brains couldn't process the information. It happens apparently with UFO sightings, where one person sees it and the other person doesn't. The local shaman could see Cook's ship, but no one else could. It wasn't until the crew walked right up to the islanders that they suddenly focused on them, and they were sore afraid. I'm thinking about a drive I had to make across Arizona from Flagstaff to Window Rock in the bottom corner of the state before it becomes New Mexico. Do you know where I mean? And I go via the Grand Canyon, therefore across the land of the Navajo Indians, who own most of Arizona, and into the Hopi Reservation, and onto Monument Valley in Utah, and back down to Window Rock, the HQ of the Navajo Nation. I'm scouting locations for our series on how the early settlers travelled across America east to west. All good and business as usual. There I am, screaming across the desert in the middle of nowhere. Up ahead, about a mile, there's a little shack at the bottom of an outcrop of rock. As I'm approaching it close to 2 miles a minute, my dad was a fighter pilot and it rubs off on you, sorry. This weird little dude bursts out of the shack and waves his arms at me to slow down. He points right at me, and I get this burning feeling in the middle of my forehead. That's where your third eye is. Go Google that one. Old me thinks he's heard the car and wants to sell me a dream catcher or a necklace. Dumb tourist keeps going. But that isn't the case. He'd sensed me coming, and he knew he could help me at exactly the point I needed it, even though I didn't realise it at the time. I kept going and thought about the spirit guide I'd had for years, who was this giant of a man, a North American Indian. And a Cherokee in Santa Monica had told me that this would happen for $60 and my Jimi Hendrix t-shirt 2 years earlier. But I only remembered 50 miles further on. Big mistake. Note to self to switch to receive and come off transmit, idiot. Big, fat idiot. Ignore the universe at your peril. 11th of November. I've just met someone who I know is going to be a big influence on me, ladies and gentlemen. May I introduce Dr. Angela Watkins, PhD? I am, finally, Mum, see I did it, at the College of Psychic Studies in London. Funnily enough, I'm immediately struck by how it feels and even smells like my mum's house. We used to recite that rhyme about the little old woman who lived in a shoe, so her. And this is how it feels. Green carpet, lots of pink and purple quartz. Ever notice how energizing it is to stand near a big lump of crystal? Tinkling running water and lavender. I'm sitting as a guest in a semicircle of about 15 women and one other man with a beard. How surprising. The beard, I mean. Weird beards. Make me suspicious. Pipes, sandals, and socks, or beards. Never trust any of them. I've never been in something like this, and it feels strange, yet immediately familiar. I make a sort of quantum leap in understanding at that moment. Angela has our attention. She is lovely, lovely, and lovely, and makes my heart sing with happiness. I've found another mummy. Stop that. It's unhealthy and disappointing. A psychologist called William Romaine once told me that no man truly becomes an adult until his mother dies and releases him. And I admit I'm still crying inwardly like a weakling about her leaving and I have no vision of when that will end. Angela is a fantastic medium, healer and teacher. Wow. This group of women seem to be a bit needy and unstable though, quite honestly. But who am I to judge? I'm unstable, unpredictable, prone to mood swings, not averse to a bit of figurative head chucking over the ramparts. By the way, can I apologise now if you were thinking this book was going to be a nice, cosy bit of New Age self-help? It's not. You may even finish it feeling quite disturbed and outside your comfort zone. But you will know something about who we are and what we're here for, which you didn't before. So please persevere. That's the amazing thing about the way collective consciousness in the universe works. I sense you're starting to wonder where this is leading. Well, how do you think I'm feeling sitting amongst this group of crazy women? Loving it, actually. I can feel a traffic warden giving my bike a ticket outside. Only I could get a parking ticket for a motorbike, but I'm so captivated I can't move. Actually, I can't move because the metal chair I'm sitting on is bent under my considerable, I was going to say auric field, but it's possibly more to do with my 18 stone, to be more accurate. I am a warrior psychic, just like my mum, actually, but maybe they don't get that many sumo wrestlers turning up for Angela's classes. I tend to just physically punch right through any obstacles, which is all wrong. You're supposed to dissolve the obstacle and walk through unimpeded in peace, saying Om Shanti or something. Oh, bollocks to that.